The story of New Coke is one of the most famous marketing failures in history, but it also became a textbook case of how a disaster can eventually strengthen brand loyalty. There's been some notable marketing campaigns throughout history that have totally flopped. For instance, in 1959, there was Colgate's Frozen Dinners. In the late 1950s, Colgate decided to leverage its brand by moving into the frozen food market with Colgate kitchen entrees. Consumers, however, found the association with a toothpaste brand with food unappetizing, and the idea was quickly abandoned. It became a legendary example of how brand extensions can backfire when they don't align with the customer expectations. And then in 1969, there was the Ford Mustang wrong car ad. The Ford Mustang's marketing campaign in the late 1960s took a misstep with an ad that showed a Ford Mustang in a crowd of, quote, wrong cars to highlight its distinctiveness. However, the ad backfired because the other cars shown were from different manufacturers and appealed to a large chunk of the target audience. Rather than elevating the Mustang, the ad inadvertently promoted the competition, confusing customers about which car was truly the right one. Another example is from 1992 with the Hoover Free Flights promotion. In 1992, Hoover UK offered 2 free round-trip tickets to the US for any customer who bought a product worth £100 or more. The problem? The flights were much more expensive than the products, so people snapped up the deal. This left Hoover with massive financial losses as they could not keep up with the demand. The campaign was such a disaster that it eventually led to huge layoffs and a significant damage to the brand. Now, back to the case of New Coke. The marketing campaign also failed miserably. Or did it? Here's the full story.
Hey there, friends. This is Dennis Geelen, author of the Happy Accidents newsletter and the book, The Accidental Solopreneur. Welcome to another episode of the Happy Accidents podcast, where we dive into true stories of wildly successful people, products, or businesses, all of which can trace their success back to a chance encounter, a serendipitous event, or a fluke invention. In each episode, we unravel the tales of unexpected triumphs and the remarkable journeys that led to their incredible success. I'm on a mission to explore the fascinating world of happy accidents, and I'm thrilled to have you along for the ride. So, why should you tune in? Well, besides the entertainment value of these incredible stories, there's a hidden treasure trove of lessons that we can learn from them. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a creative mind, or simply someone who enjoys a good narrative, this podcast is your go-to source for inspiring stories and valuable insights. Get ready for a roller coaster ride of surprises, a dash of luck, and a sprinkle of wisdom. This is the Happy Accidents Podcast, where success meets serendipity. Let's jump into today's adventure.
First, some background. By the early 1980s, Coca-Cola was feeling the pressure. Although it was the dominant soft drink for most of the 20th century, its main competitor, Pepsi, was gaining ground with aggressive marketing. Pepsi had also been winning blind taste tests with a sweeter formula, which Coca-Cola executives found alarming. Coca-Cola decided it needed to act fast. After conducting extensive market research and taste tests, they discovered that consumers preferred a new, sweeter version of Coke. In their view, the answer to Pepsi's rising popularity was to change the original Coca-Cola formula, which had been around since 1886. This new formula was internally called Project Kansas and later branded as New Coke. Then came the launch of New Coke. On April 23rd, 1985, Coca-Cola announced it was discontinuing its original recipe and replacing it with New Coke. They expected a positive reception, believing the public would love the new taste just as much as their focus groups had. In fact, many of the company's executives were convinced that changing the formula was the right move to beat Pepsi once and for all. But what happened next stunned everyone at Coca-Cola. Almost immediately, the public reacted with outrage. People were furious that their beloved Coca-Cola, a symbol of Americana, had been tampered with. They didn't just dislike the taste of New Coke, many hadn't even tried it yet, but they resented the idea that Coca-Cola would change a formula that was deeply woven into American culture. It wasn't just a drink, it was a tradition. The backlash was swift and intense. Protests erupted in some area with people hoarding old cans and bottles of the original formula. Coca-Cola's Customer service lines were flooded with over 1,500 calls a day, up from their usual 400. Angry letters poured in by the thousands, with some even addressing the CEO of Coca-Cola, Robert Goizeta, personally. One person reportedly wrote, "You have taken away my childhood." Even Pepsi seized the moment, celebrating Coca-Cola's misstep in its marketing and enjoying a short-term boost in sales. The backlash wasn't just vocal. It hit Coca-Cola's bottom line, with sales suffering under the weight of customer dissatisfaction. Then came the turnaround. Realizing the depth of their mistake, Coca-Cola made an unprecedented move just 79 days after launching New Coke. On July 11th, 1985, Coca-Cola announced the return of the original formula under the brand name Coca-Cola Classic. The return of the original formula was met with public celebration, and the sales of Coca-Cola surged almost immediately. This move also marked a turning point in Coca-Cola's public relations. The company began spinning the narrative that the reintroduction of Coca-Cola Classic was in response to their loyal customers, showing that Coca-Cola cared deeply about consumer opinion. This helped transform the blunder into a story of redemption and loyalty. The public, for all their outrage, now felt even more connected with the Coca-Cola brand than ever before. What started as a failed marketing campaign for New Coke turned into a happy accident that inadvertently took Coke Classic to new heights. In the end, the New Coke debacle helped strengthen the brand. Sales of Coca-Cola Classic not only rebounded, but grew beyond what they had been before the launch of New Coke. Coca-Cola executives later admitted that New Coke might have been one of the best mistakes they ever made. I'll repeat that again. It might have been one of the best mistakes they have ever made. In other words, a happy accident. It created a renewed sense of loyalty, and the backlash had stirred up national pride around Coca-Cola, making it more than just a drink. It was now a cultural icon. The saga also became a case study in marketing and customer relations, showing how listening to your audience and acting swiftly can turn a blunder into a victory. By the early 2000s, New Coke had almost faded into history, though it has occasionally resurfaced as a novelty. But the lesson was clear. Don't mess with a beloved brand. Or, if you do, be ready to pivot quickly if things go wrong.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the Happy Accidents podcast. I hope you find these stories as intriguing and insightful as I do, but make sure you don't miss an episode. You can subscribe to my Accidental Solopreneur channel on YouTube and watch these episodes in video form, or subscribe to the Happy Accidents podcast on Apple and Spotify for your listening pleasure. Until next time, stay lucky, my friends.